Adam Broomberg, Ollie Chanarin. We're here in Freud's house. Why?
We were invited by the museum alongside a lot of artists that they invite to somehow respond to the museum and to come up with a project that can be housed here and somehow responds to its legacy and Freud's legacy. And we chose to concentrate on the iconic couch that's behind us, that every one of Freud's patients lay down upon, including the Wolfman and everybody we've all read about.
So we invited a group of forensic scientists who normally work with Scotland Yard, and they came into this room and they looked at it as a kind of crime scene, and they gathered DNA material from the couch. And we've gathered this material, which, as Adam mentioned, is the traces of all the various visitors that have visited upon this piece of furniture.
I think we should explain exactly practically what we're doing. So our forensic scientists gathered every hair follicle or skin sample or anything they could find on the couch. They then took what it's called SEM images, so they blew them up, from 2,000 to 5,000 times. And we sent those photographs to the best tapestry maker in the world, and they have re-rendered the results, the scientific results, as tapestries. And what we're going to do is place the tapestry, one of them, on top of the couch itself. And obviously it's very vivid, bright colors, as you've seen those kind of images. And I think that juxtaposition, not only of a forensic science versus a different form that's here, also aesthetically, that the kind of jarring nature of it will be interesting.
It's interesting that you mention about the subjectivity of biography and the objectivity of science. Do you think we place too much emphasis or too much belief in the objectivity of science and the subjectivity of biography? We've now gone too far from believing that subjective experiences can be sort of valid to the person, and that science has come to dominate the way we think. We can't do anything that doesn't have a scientific basis.
I think as artists, what's lovely about being an artist is you're not beholden to that. We're not academics. We're not creating a thesis here, and our gesture can be a flawed one, and we're not gathering real scientific evidence. So the role of the artist is a very liberated one.
How do you think people should find their way into your work? If someone were looking at your work cold the first time, what would you suggest to them they start thinking about? What things would you say are good sort of maybe keys?
I think I hope that it's not important to understand something. It's important to respond to it intuitively. For example, our show that's opening in a couple of weeks at Lisson Gallery, standing in front of one of these images of the fused bullets, you have a response to it immediately as an aesthetic object. And then there's a second layer, is when you understand what that object is, the meaning and the kind of emotional impact hopefully grows. So I think there's those two layers, is the one to appreciate an object existing in a space, and the other is when you're slightly informed about what it is, it grows.
We've also been thinking about humour in the gallery, in the kind of museum space. I think people don't laugh very much in museums and in galleries. There's a kind of, within the contemporary art world, humour is sort of, there's a kind of lack of humour in a lot of exhibitions, and there's a kind of protocol. And we set out to make a film for the show which we want hopefully to be humorous, and for people to go in there and for their response, at least their first response, to laugh.
How do you find operating in the art market today?
That's a really interesting question, because we started off as photographers, and we were working very much in a photography mode, working with a large format camera in very traditional documentary sort of environments photographing prisons and psychiatric hospitals and the sort of places that photographers like to visit. And we realized that we were operating in a kind of public art form that had very severe limitations. When we were publishing photographs in newspapers, it came with a whole lot of constraints that made it very difficult for us to say what we wanted to say and make the work we wanted to make. And the truth is that the art world is, for all its problems, is probably the most radical context that we can show our work. It's the freest environment with the least constraints, and for that reason, we feel like that's why we locate our work in the art world rather than in some other sphere.